This pedal has seen some things, and with any luck, it'll live to see a whole lot more. It's the Boss SD-2 Dual OverDrive. This video is at the request of user SitChad1. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. They spied this little fella on the wall back there and wanted a video. Now, dirt pedals are not my favorite thing to demo. They're tricky to record, and a lot of times they just sound weird out of context, especially these older, not so transparent pedals. But this SD2 and I go way back, and I thought it deserved its own video. So, the basics. It's a compact pedal sold from 1993 to 1998, and it is to the SD1 what the DS2 is to the DS1. Basically, we take the standard effect and then add a second mode. So let's take a look at these two channels. First, here's the pedal bypassed. And then here's the crunch channel. And here's the lead channel. Now, what I think is really interesting and definitely worth talking about is that this pedal actually has two different circuits in here. It's not just changing a value somewhere or raising the voltage on an op amp. There's a set of components in here for crunch and another set of components for lead. The inner pots control the crunch, the outer pots control the lead, and this fourth knob over here lets us select which one gets connected to the output. The LED up here actually changes color based on which mode it's in. Green for crunch, red for lead. And we can select those with these two top notches on this knob all the way on the right, or we can put it into this third mode, and now the foot switch cycles between them. However, the real pro move is to put it back into crunch mode and use an FS5L, that's L for latching foot switch, and now we can turn the pedal on and off, as well as cycle between the modes. As for the circuits themselves, crunch is an asymmetric soft clipping drive like the SD1 and countless other pedals, though when we compare them side by side, they don't exactly sound the same. And that could be a lot of things. The potentiometer values could be different. Some of the components in here might have drifted out of spec over time. But I looked at the schematics and there are different values in there. So I'm thinking maybe they're not supposed to sound the same. Just out of curiosity, I took out all of my Boss dirt pedals and I A/B'd them with the SD2. And the closest I could find to the crunch channel was the non-turbo mode of the OD2R Turbo Overdrive. Now, the values of the circuits aren't the same there either, but at least to my ear, they were the closest sonically. Now, I did this with one guitar and one amp, with the knobs fairly centered, and it's entirely possible that someone else playing a different riff on a different guitar into a different amp with different gear would hear something else. But I knew people would be curious, so I figured I'd at least get out ahead of it and do some experimenting. As for the lead channel, there's a reason it sounds so darn thick and saturated and compressed. You can see right here, the drive knob controls this stage, which feeds into this stage, which is followed by a pair of diodes in a symmetric hard clipping arrangement, followed by this asymmetric soft clipping stage, and then there's another amplifier before going into the tone stack. That's like a particle accelerator for a guitar signal. There's going to be a lot of clipping in there. I did the same thing with all those pedals, and oddly enough, it was the turbo channel of the DS2 Turbo Distortion where I found the closest match to the SD-2's lead mode. Obviously, it's not exactly the same, and I had to adjust some of the knobs on here, and the same disclaimer applies, but I had all those pedals out, and I was curious. We've got one more demo jam, and in here, we're going to start out with some very light overdrive on the crunch channel, and then finish with some really, really, really thick and nasty lead tone back on that Les Paul. I mentioned earlier that this pedal and I go way back. I used to have band practice in this dude's basement, and the stairs to get down there were so old and sketchy and shaky and rotting that I just didn't want to carry an amp down there. But he had this old solid state amp that was already down there next to the drums, and it was really good at being loud. And that was about it. So I'd park this pedal up in front of it and pretend that these two channels were the amps channels, and I was good to go. I think this is still a fairly useful pedal today, though they have fallen into the desirable and collectible category in the past few years. So if you're after one of these, you'll either have to get really lucky at a yard sale or cough up around 150 bucks. I think I paid $40 for this, but those were simpler times. Hey, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for the request. Please make sure you're subscribed. That helps me out a whole lot. I've got so many good things planned coming up. I can't wait to show them to you. So please stay tuned, and I'll catch you on the next one.